friends, Christy Teji here, your host for the Productive Passions podcast. Let me ask you, is there something different you dream of doing but don't know where to begin? If you're feeling suffocated, anxious, or you feel there's something different calling you, come along with me for candid conversations with people who have embarked on a journey to put their passions to work for them. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Life is too short to stay stuck.
Blessed are the curious, for they shall have adventures. Lavelle Drachman. That quote could have been written about today's guest, Abby Cheshire, who epitomizes this sentiment. Known to her 2 million followers as Abby in the Galley, Abby's journey from her grandmother's kitchen to the high seas is a testament to her insatiable curiosity and unwavering determination. From her time at college to Disney and now floating blissfully at sea, Abby's life reads like a dream spun from the threads of exploration and culinary delight. As if that wasn't enough, Abby isn't content to keep all the fun to herself. As a high school culinary teacher, she's passing on her passion for cooking to the next generation of culinary artists, inspiring them with the art, science, and love that is cooking. Join us as we set sail with Abby in the Galley and discover how you too can become one of her little chefs. Get ready to be inspired, intrigued, and hungry for more on this episode of Productive Passions. Abby, thank you so much for joining us on Productive Passions. It's such a pleasure having you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get started.
You are known as Abby in the Galley. What does that mean?
I am known as Abby in the Galley to over 2.6 million people across all of my platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. But my friends and family just call me Abby.
Where did Abby in the Galley come from? What is a galley?
A galley is a kitchen on a ship or a yacht, in my case. I had an opportunity that was presented to me that I could go work as a chef on a yacht. And it was the time where TikTok was kind of taking off. And I never intended to be an influencer or content creator, if you want to call it that. But I said, I'm not going to have Wi-Fi on the boat. I thought it would be a great idea to kind of document my day and then let my friends and family just see the video rather than explaining it on the phone call. So I made my page public for everyone to see. And at the dinner table, a couple days before I left for the yacht trip, we were kind of just bouncing back ideas of what my page could be called. And we all agreed upon Abby in the Galley. And I think it has a nice ring to it.
It does have a nice ring to it. I really like that. So interesting, as I understand it, you didn't always plan on being a chef. When you went to college, you had something else in mind. Is that correct?
So I originally went to college wanting to study pre-med and kind of take the route that my father was in, either dentistry or going into pathology. And it was funny because during college, food was always my passion. And I always thought of it as a hobby or just like a fun thing to do on the weekends, just, cook meals for friends because I saw my Gigi and Nana doing that growing up. But I never saw it as a career. So during college, I would go to the dining hall because I had the dining plan. And I wasn't really a fan of the food. So what I would do is take like their decorations of like the garlic bulbs and the squash that was out for decor. I took it back to my dorm and I had a little toaster there and I would create things. I would make dishes for my roommates, my 8 other roommates in this toaster oven. So I'd like roast garlic and make bread and spread the roasted garlic on the bread. And that just brought me so much joy to cook and to feed others and just to watch their faces light up when they'd taste one of my dishes. So after that year, I really knew that my passion was in culinary. So I did a major switch and I transferred schools. I went to the University of Central Florida in Orlando. They kind of have like an offshoot campus, which is called the Rosen College of Hospitality Management. Mm-hmm. And it's right by Disney World, which was, it will play into my story a little bit later. But I transferred there and studied food service management. My mom thought it would be a great idea to get a bachelor's degree, not just go into culinary school, because, if that doesn't work out, I don't have any higher education other than, high school diploma. So I got my bachelor's degree in food service management. And while I was going to college, I was working in the kitchens at Walt Disney World. And that's kind of where my passion grew and I learned everything I know about the industry.
So I want to go back a minute and ask you, what did your family and friends say when you said, you know what, I'm going to change majors. I'm going to get out of this pre-med thing and go into culinary. What was the response that you got from that announcement?
So I remember this vividly. I came home for spring break and we were at the dining room table. Again, a gathering point for my family, always around the dinner table in the kitchen. And I said, I think I want to drop out and start a food truck and move to New York City. And everyone's face was just like, oh, here we go again. Abby with her creative
parent's dream, right?
Yeah. But in my mind, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be around food and serve people food and make them happy. And then my mom said, Abby, let's take a step back for a second. How about we get our degree first, and then you can take that route if you wish to, pursue culinary school. Just it's always a good idea to have something in your back pocket, like a bachelor's degree. And I am thankful that she said that.
What a supportive response, as opposed to, no, that's ridiculous. You never make money at it, or any of the other responses that sometimes well-meaning people would say to sort of protect you, right?
Oh, absolutely. My parents have always been supportive of every crazy idea, like owning a food truck in New York City. Those kind of ideas I have all the time. I have a very creative brain and I take on a lot of just some of my ideas and put them into reality. And they've always been so supportive of just letting me follow my passions and dreams.
So I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but do you think that's part of your success, is that steadfast support from your family?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think support by your loved ones is incredibly important. It feels lonely to do it without any support. And they've always raised me in a way to just take risk and do not be afraid of failure. It was funny because I was having a conversation with friends a few weeks ago about just do you feel like you've ever failed in life? And I truly don't feel like that. Yes, there may be setbacks, but I always think of them as successes because those failures then turn into new opportunities or fixing something that might have gone wrong, but they never feel like actual true failures.
That's interesting that you say that on this podcast. I've heard repeatedly from guest after guest that you have to be a little bit willing to take risk. And it's that view of what some would call failure that is maybe a little bit different from people who wouldn't take a risk. It's not failure in the traditional sense, but like you said, instead of looking at it as a failure, looking at it as a setback that maybe you're supposed to learn something from, that puts you on a different path to get you where, maybe get on a path, get on a right path, or the path that ultimately, like where you are now. Because if had any of those setbacks worked out exactly the way you planned, you may not be where you are now.
Exactly. And that's how I feel about every setback or failure, quote unquote, that I've had in my life. It's brought me to the place that I'm at now. And I'm very proud of myself for getting to this point and taking the risk and going through those ups and downs of the high points and maybe some points that are pretty low, but using those as stepping stones and taking those failures and making them into new opportunities.
So let me ask you, when you were 10 years old, what did you think you wanted to be?
When I was 10 years old, I've always had a super creative brain. And it's funny because I was looking back at my mom made all these scrapbooks of what I paintings that I have from being a kid or little books that we made in school. And I'm looking at all of these drawings that I did. I loved drawing and painting. And I think as a child, your ability to have more of a creative brain and just let yourself be free there's so much more of that as a child than as I am now. So my paintings when I was a kid, they were amazing. I was looking at these dinosaurs that I was painting and they were I could tell that my brain just allowed me to not be too critical of myself and they were amazing, I have to say. But if I were to draw a dinosaur now, it would not look that way. My dinosaur drawing as a 5-year-old was so much better than a dinosaur that I could draw now. But I wanted to be an artist. And I think that goes hand in hand with culinary. It is an art. and very creative. I always wanted to be in a creative field.
I think what you're doing, by the way, I watched a lot of your videos and I have to say they're pretty artistic. Some of the things that you are making, I mean, forget that they taste good because I haven't had a chance to taste them, but they're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The colors and the presentation. Look, Abby, if I tried to put together something like you put together, you've seen those pictures like, here's what you're trying to do, and that nailed it.
Right.
Mine would definitely be that like kaleidoscope, nailed it mess. But you know what? It's the trying that's so much fun. And I think
absolutely.
That's something that a lot of your followers are doing, is watching what you're doing and trying it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I think you are inspiring people to try and make beautiful things, to try different recipes, to try adding new ingredients. Is that sort of what you're after? Is that what you're looking to influence?
Yes. And I think my tagline is Little Chef. And when people hear that, they automatically are like, oh, a little chef, I can do this. It's just an endearing term that kind of sets people at ease, because a lot of these influencers or content creators make food look so difficult and use all these big words that mean nothing to a common person. So I just kind of break it down to its simplest form and just let my little chefs know that a recipe is just a guide and cooking doesn't have to be scary. And yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Well, it's interesting because that's what I got watching it as, wow, like a lot of this stuff that you're doing is not super complicated, but I would guess it takes practice. I'm somebody, when I'm following a recipe, I follow it exactly. And then maybe down the road, after I've made it 10 times, I'll, try something new or a little bit different, but I'm going to follow it exactly because I'm concerned that if I don't, it's going to turn out horrible.
Right.
So I love the simplicity of, I know not everything that you prepare is simple, but a lot of it is. And it's a lot of things that I could do at my house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back to the point of how you said that you follow a recipe and then you kind of can, do your own thing. And that's exactly how I started. I read recipes, and in high school, I started cooking dinner every single night for my family. And at that point, I didn't know much about cooking. So I would watch the Food Network, and Food Network was like the equivalent to cartoons for me. Like if I would choose to watch Food Network over cartoons or SpongeBob, whatever it might be. But I was reading recipes and I followed it to the T, just like you. And it took me 3 hours to complete a dish. It was just,
right.
It takes forever. And then once I started building just some understanding, it's so simple. Once you understand braising and frying and how to season and the spices from different countries, then you can kind of break away from those recipes and get creative with it. So there's definitely a learning curve at the beginning, but then there's a world of possibility beyond that.
And I'm kind of chuckling because in our family, my husband is the cook and he just makes things and they turn out amazing. And if he tries to make one of the recipes that I found after I've done it and he starts to veer off course a bit, I try to correct him and he says exactly what you say. And I've got to say, I don't know that I should say this because he'll probably hear this and I don't want to hear I told you so. But I got to say, they turn out really good.
Yeah.
So with practice, there's hope. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So where did you get your experience before you went to work on a yacht?
So Food Network, number one, I truly believe that was just, there were so many foundational things that I learned from Food Network. And I put them to practice. Once I learned it on Food Network, I would sit down there with my little notepad, write down all my ingredients, what we need to get from the store. My mom would get those ingredients and I'd cook it. So just taking what I learned from television and putting it into practice. And then working at Walt Disney World, I started front of the house because they told me you have zero experience and you can't be in the kitchen. It's pretty much like a liability. So I started front of the house. And yes.
What does that mean, front of the house?
Oh, front of the house. We have, so in a restaurant, you have front of the house and back of the house. So front of the house is the people that interact with guests. So like a hostess and a waitress, waiter. And then you have back of the house, which are not seen by the guests. So like your chefs and prep cooks, dishwashers. So I started out front of the house and I love people. I really do. but you have to be Disney on for 8 hours a day. And that's difficult. It is hard to keep a smile on and have to interact with guests that might not, be happy with everything that you're providing for them. So that was hard for me, but I stuck it out because I knew I wanted to be back at the house at Walt Disney World. Mm-hmm. So after 6 months, I put in a transfer and another 6 months went by. So I was in the front of the house role for a year. I finally got back into the kitchens. I started out as just like tending the buffet, and I let my chef know immediately. Like I told my chef, here's where I want to be. And I want to be an executive chef at Disney World.
Wow. That's quite a goal from what I'm hearing you say, to have to go from front of the house to an executive chef. I'm guessing that doesn't happen in even 6 months.
Oh, absolutely not. This was like a long-term goal, like, 5-10 years down the road. But he knew that I had a passion for it. And I verbally said that I want to learn from you and I want to get to that. I want to get to be an executive chef. So I worked my butt off, and that buffet was beautiful every time that I had to tend to it. So about 2 weeks later, I moved up from the tending of the buffet to prep cook.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I was just like cutting up ingredients for the line cooks to prepare for lunch and dinner service. Then 3 weeks after that, I got moved up to another position where I was doing all of the food for their quick service restaurant. This kitchen that we were in was providing food for 8 different restaurants around Fort Wilderness Resort. So I was in charge of creating the food for the quick service restaurant. And then about 3 weeks after that, I was moved up to pantry cook. So the pantry cook or pantry, it's on the line, and the line has like a grill cook, fry cook, saute cook, and pantry. And pantry is in charge of like cold items like salads and desserts. It's the simplest job on the line. So I got put on the simplest job on the line, plating desserts, making salads. A couple weeks after, I got promoted to grill cook, which is like the next one. Then I got to fry cook, and then I eventually made my way up to saute cook, which is on the line again. It's typically the hardest job on the line, but I moved quickly through that ladder, and it's because I showed that I wanted to be there and I wanted to improve and I wanted to work my way up to eventually become an executive chef.
As you're talking, what I'm hearing you say is, where you are now, there were a lot of things that happened along the way. I mean, you didn't just show up at a marina and say, hey, looking for a job as a chef on a yacht. Man, you did a lot that in the front and then to the buffet and then beginning in the back. But all of those things, it sounds like even among those steps, there were steps within those steps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, this whole time I'm learning from these chefs and asking them questions that they've probably never had a worker interested in. Like I was talking about food costs and how inventory works and how supplies come in. So I was gathering all of this information and learning how the industry actually works. So then I could use that knowledge and put it into my catering company that I started right after I stopped working at Disney World. But all these things that you can learn from working your way up in the industry, you can just take and use them in your future careers.
So they're like your building blocks.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the things that you said is that you said to, I don't know, it was an executive chef. You said, I want to learn from you. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big deal for several reasons. Once somebody expresses an interest in learning, that person typically becomes a mentor and becomes invested in your growth. Is that something that you saw?
Yes. And we are still friends today. I have their contact information. They've written me letters of recommendation. And I learned this from my mother. Networking is so important. And I've never gotten any job in my life without having a connection. So it's all about networking.
That actually served you in several ways. You spent a lot of time learning, so you walked away with a lot of knowledge. And I think a lot of times mentors give you knowledge that you might otherwise pay for, right? So you got that education, but you got a connection, a friend, somebody that wrote recommendations for you. And then like you said, this lifelong, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, friend or connection, just by asking them to allow you to learn from them.
Yeah.
That's a powerful tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mentors are so important. Like now that I'm kind of in the content creation aspect of things, I reach out to other content creators and ask for their opinions because I'm fairly new into this. You know, I've only been doing this for 3 years and I am a lifelong learner. I am learning every single day how to edit videos, how to schedule content, all the ins and outs of this, how to do brand deals. And it's a lot to learn, but it's fun to learn. I don't think I'll ever stop learning in my life.
And don't you find when people who are passionate about something, when you ask them to teach you, they enjoy that teaching, right? People enjoy teaching what they're good at, sharing that knowledge. Are you the same way?
Since I am a high school teacher during the school year, I'm a culinary arts teacher. Yes, I love sharing my passion. And I think being able to teach something that you know is like the highest level of knowledge. So, you know, I can spit off random facts and hopefully interest this young generation to maybe get a passion in the culinary industry. And I've had lots of students that have taken that route and, you know, they email me and they thank me for teaching them and getting them hands-on experience because the class is actually really hands-on and they get a lot of knowledge and experience from being in the class.
So that's really interesting that you also teach high school. How do you find that? How do you find teaching high school students? And what are some of the things that they're learning?
Yeah, so right now I'm teaching virtual high school. And that happened right when the pandemic started because I didn't know what was going to happen with brick and mortar school. We weren't going to be allowed to cook in the kitchens with COVID going on. So I was just like, this might be the better route. But at brick and mortar school, it honestly didn't even feel like teaching because it was almost set up like a business. We were getting food deliveries in from Cheney Brothers, which is a huge supply company or like a food supplier. So we'd be getting truckfuls of food coming in once a week, maybe 2 times a week. We would be doing 3 to 4 catering events a week, staying after hours until like 9
So they
p.m.
weren't just like learning how to make scrambled eggs. They were running a business space, it sounds like.
We were. Yeah. We did weddings, parties. We did a gala for 1,200 people. We did a lot of district events. It was impressive.
Other than high school, are you teaching cooking to other people?
I am. So in the evenings for my little chefs, I offer once a month live cooking classes. So it's a subscription once a month fee of $2.99, which is, you know, less than a cup of coffee. But what we do is we get together on live and I'll send out the recipe a week before so you guys can gather the ingredients. And then when the live comes on, we can create a dish, maybe 2 in an hour. And then I put it usually around dinner time so you can feed your family with the dish that you make. But yeah, I do that on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Oh my gosh. So I could literally learn from you, but cook alongside you.
Yes. Yes. And it's fun because I've got the comments going and you can ask questions.
I was going to ask that. Like, what happens if I get stuck? I can ask a question in the comment.
Yep. I always have the comments on and I answer them promptly. And then at the end of the class, my favorite part is that I have all of the little chefs take a picture of their dish and I like start a thread and see all of the dishes come in. That's my favorite part.
So no pressure. Now I feel like I need to join and mine will be that picture of the nailed it.
No, I go very slowly. And again, I'm a high school teacher. So I'm working with adult brains here. So if I can teach high schoolers, I can teach an adult. And I have kids that are in the class too.
I am so joining. Actually, you know what? So I am a grandmother. I am a Mimi. And I have a couple older, they're young, grandchildren who love to play in the kitchen. I could totally see having a Mimi and me day, cooking dinner with you for our family. What a great idea.
Yeah. And I have lots of people that do that. There's like, it's their little date night, a little father and daughter date night. Yeah. And I also record them. So like if you can't make the live class, they're all recorded. So if you join, you get access to all of the previous cooking classes, which I've been doing this for a little over a year. So there's like probably 15 plus classes.
Wow. And you said it's $2.99?
$2.99 a month. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what day? Is it a certain day of the month?
It's not a certain day. It's usually towards the beginning of the month, usually like the first week of the month.
Okay.
And it's usually like at 6 p.m.
If I'm out in California, I could just watch it recorded.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's fun because I do a poll before the cooking class, like 3 weeks ahead of the class. I put a poll out and I usually theme it to the month. So like for Easter, I think I put like brunch, just like a brunch, and we did eggs Benedict and like blueberry scones or like lamb. I'll do fun things. I put like 3 different options and then you get to pick. So whichever one wins out of all the votes, that's the one we'll do.
Okay. So we're recording in April. So next month is May. I think of Cinco de Mayo. Are you going to kind of go with that theme?
Yes, that is one of the options. Cinco de Mayo theme. Yeah.
Okay. I won't make you give the rest of it away. Oh, I am so signing my husband up for this.
Yeah.
We're actually going to do this together because I am trying to work on my cooking skills, because seriously, when he's gone, I literally say, who's going to feed me? And my mealtime consists of standing in front of the pantry. This is really embarrassing and pathetic, but most of the time it's standing in front of the pantry and going, a can of black beans, a can of chickpeas. All right. But I am actually making an effort to work on it.
So on Instagram and Facebook, there's a little button at the top of the page that says subscribe. And then once you put in the payment, $2.99, it will then say subscriber hub. And then you click the subscriber hub and you have access to all those previous cooking classes and future ones. And then on YouTube, there's a button that says join. And then you'll join the Little Chef Club. And then again, you'll have access to all those recorded cooking classes and future ones.
And it's the same content regardless of the platform. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Same time, same. Yeah. I just stream on all 3 at the same time.
Okay. And all of this will be in the show notes in case you forget by the end of this. I'll be sure to include all of Abby's handles in the show notes. Tell me about living off the grid. I heard that you did that for a little bit.
Off the grid. Okay. So the first yacht trip was a little different from the ones that have happened recently. It was a little bit of a smaller boat. It was a 70-foot Viking, which is a fishing boat.
Oh, that's tiny.
Yeah, it's pretty.
No, I'm joking.
It's pretty tiny to be called a yacht.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a mega yacht or super yacht. Like it wasn't a lounging yacht. It was a fishing yacht.
Okay.
And those are kind of difficult to be out on for a whole month. Freezer space is limited. Refrigerator space is limited. And you mean
like a whole month without coming back to shore?
Correct. Well, we are on shore or at a marina in the Bahamas, but not in the States.
Okay.
And once you get to the Bahamas, there's a lack of ingredients. So that's what makes it difficult. But yeah, the first trip, we didn't have any Wi-Fi on the boat and it was just small quarters. So it was difficult to communicate with people. We had to take a little dinghy into the island at the resort and then you could get Wi-Fi at the resort. But honestly, it was kind of nice. It was relaxing to detach from society for a bit. And I was always staying busy. So it's not like I had opportunities to scroll on my phone. I was up at 6 a.m. and went to bed at 11 p.m. And
oh my gosh,
the work never stopped. I mean, there was no dishwasher on board, which ate a lot of my time because I was hand washing dishes and then having to dry them. And I was serving like 12 to 15 people for the whole 27 days.
Wow. Every day.
Every day, breakfast, lunch, cocktail hour, and dinner.
Wow. Wow. So I was going to ask you what your schedule is like. Is it different now that you're on a bigger yacht? The other question was, do you have to wash the dishes?
I do wash the dishes, but there is a dishwasher that gets run like 3 times a day. So it's taken a lot off my plate. And the stew, we have a stew now. So there are 4 crew members, myself, which is the chef, the captain, the stew, and the first mate. So the
Is stew short for steward?
Yep.
Okay. And what does the steward do?
She cleans the inside of the boat. Okay. She sets the table for dinner, makes everything look super pretty. She helps with cleaning my galley, not my galley, but dishes in the galley after meal times, and just helps with whatever, planning outings and making sure the guests are happy.
That's not a big crew.
No, it's not, because sometimes it could be 5 people on board or it could be 25 people on board. So when it's 25 people, we're working hard.
Yeah, I guess. So what is a day in the life of Abby in the galley? When you are cooking for however many people, what is your day like?
So it's always different. There's no set meal time, so I kind of have to read the room. And I've gotten very good at this. I've been working for the same family for 3 years now. So I know them. I know when they're starting to get hungry, and I know what they like. I know their dislikes.
You know their hangry face?
Yes, I do. And I know that one of the owners likes to wake up early and have his breakfast straight away. Others like to wait a little bit. So I'm cooking like breakfast at 3 different times in the day sometimes. So normal day would be me waking up at around 7 o'clock. Owner usually wakes up at 7:30. So that gives me about 30 minutes to have some coffee and prepare his breakfast. Then the rest of the gang usually wakes up and they like breakfast around like 9:30. And I'll usually prep breakfast stuff the day before. That way I don't have to wake up super, super early, because I'm not a morning person or a night person. I'm like a midday person. But I'll prep a lot of breakfast the day before to make it really easy on myself. So breakfast, we'll serve breakfast on upper deck if it's nice, or inside if it's too sunny out. I'll clean up the galley, and then the prepping for either lunch or dinner or dessert begins. So it's always about like just staying ahead. So that way, when I do see their hungry face, I can get something out quickly. It's not like I have to prepare it and take an hour or 2 to prepare it and then it's served. Like I'm always having food either prepped, like cut up and ready to throw into a saute pan, or my marinade with the chicken, or sauces prepared, or pasta partially cooked. Like everything is ready to go at a moment's notice, and I can put out a dish in 15 minutes.
So where are you getting your ingredients? I know you prep and you have them before a trip, but are you having to ever get them while you're out? And if so, I'm guessing some of the places you go to are a bit different than where we live in the United States.
Yes. So I provision everything out of Miami, which is where the boat is living. So I'll get, for this past trip, for example, we brought a half a cow on board. So the owner got a cow and had it butchered. And, there's a sheet that you can fill out what type of cut you want and how many inches you want the ribeye steaks to be. So we have a half a cow on board. We've got duck, lobster, fish, pork, chicken. I mean, you name it. There's so many different proteins on board, equating to about 800 pounds of protein in these 8 different freezers we have in what we call the hole, but it's usually called the hold. And it's just this giant space that we put 8 freezers in. It's ridiculously hot down there because those things are running, and it's the Bahamas, so it's always hot. But I have to go down there at least once a day and pull stuff from those freezers. Got all my protein set down there, like prepared goods like puff pastry and frozen fruits and vegetables if I do run out of fresh. So protein and dry goods are the things that I provision the most of out of Miami, because I know I can get it there and they hold, because they're in the freezer or they're dry. And then once I get to the Bahamas, I have to go shopping in those stores. And sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not. If you see the supply boat coming in, you have to prepare to go in the next 5 hours, making sure you get the fresh stuff right off the boat. And even then, the fresh stuff right off the boat, it's been traveling for a few days now, so it's not super fresh. When I go to the grocery stores in the Bahamas, I'm picking through stuff to get the freshest looking ones. And because there's such a, there's just so much travel involving bringing the supplies to the island, the price of things are insane. So strawberries, and they might not even look that great. Some wrinkly little strawberries, $12 a pint.
Oh my gosh.
3 zucchinis, $17. It's really insane how much produce is. And when we go shopping and I bring back a week's worth of supplies, it's easily $500 plus for those provisions.
So you really need to not only know how to cook it and come up with all these great meal ideas, but it sounds like you also really need to know how to store food, produce, stuff that you're going to use in the meals. Is that something that you had to learn, or is that just pretty typical?
This is a go with the flow kind of job, and you just got to work with what you got. So I do create a tentative menu of what I'm going to cook for the 2 months. This past trip was 2 months, but that is just tentative because it's only based on what I have available to me. So I create my menu usually like 3 days in advance when I'm on the boat. I look at what's in the fridge, look what's going bad or going to be going bad. And then I create that menu based on what I have available. And then I don't know what I'm going to cook the next, a week from now because I don't have anything in my refrigerator. So it's truly go with the flow, and whatever's at the grocery store, I'm going to make it work.
Abby, I'm beginning to think there is hope for me because that's me. I just open up the pantry like, what am I going to do today when I'm on my own? So, hey, there's hope, huh? I could be good at
absolutely.
this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I do in my home kitchen, too. I just, what's in the fridge? Let's make it work.
So I want to shift gears and ask you more about the experience of it. Are there any things that have happened that you could not have anticipated?
Goodness, I don't know. This goes back to the thing, is it a failure? No, I just learned from it. So let me see if there's anything that went horribly wrong.
Or just surprises.
Okay, so I guess this is a surprise. So like I said, I prep. I make sure everything's prepped and ready to go so that way I can get meals out quickly. Some days I'll have, my set menu. And the guests usually like to be surprised of just, put out anything. What we like already, Abby, so just give us anything. And then, midday, I'll get, what's for dinner, Abby? And then I'll let them know, oh, here we're going to have pork loin with this and that. I might get you know what? I'm not really feeling pork. So then I just have to take a little alternate route and just, okay, you always make it work. There's no. I mean, it's not like I could say no and they're not going to have a problem with it, but they're on a yacht. They paid me to be the chef and I'm going to make it work. So I'll have to go grab some fish and, thaw it under running water and go a different route. But that's the thing I love. I love problem solving and I love working under pressure. So it's fun for me. It does not make me mad. I get comments all the time they switched the meal on you. Yeah, that's fun. I get to be a little stressed and use my problem solving skills.
So have you ever had to throw your line in and go fishing?
I don't do the fishing on board. The owner and the captain and the first mate and whoever's on board that wants to fish goes out and brings back the fish.
And then you might prepare that fish?
Yeah. So that's another thing. I might have something in mind for dinner. And if they get lucky with fishing and they bring back fish, that's out the window. Chicken's out the window and fish is on the menu.
Do you like that?
Oh, yeah.
I bet you get some good stuff, huh?
Yeah, we have these. They're called yellow eyes or yellow eye snappers. And you get down in 1,000 feet of water. So on the fishing boat, on the little tender that we have, it feels wrong to fish this way because the pole does all the work for you because it's electric. So you have this heavy weight on the end of the line. It drops 1,000 feet.
Wow.
And to reel it up, if you were to crank that thing by hand, it would take probably hours. So you push a button and it reels it up with electricity.
No, I was going to say, that's probably more my kind of fishing. No, I love to fish, but yeah, I'd probably be more successful if I had a button to push, let it go down, and a button push, bring it back up.
It's easy. I went out one time and I was like, this does not feel like fishing to me.
What is your absolute favorite thing to make?
I love Asian food, in particular, Thai food. And the owners of the yacht are Cuban and they love their Cuban food. But I introduced Thai food to them the first yacht trip and they fell in love with it. And thankfully they did because Asian food is my passion. So I started experimenting with different recipes and they were loving it. So Thai curry is probably my favorite thing, but I use a lot of Asian spices and sauces. And it's just, the flavors are so unique and they're not what you typically have lemongrass and fish sauce and just all these unique flavors that you don't typically have on a day-to-day basis. And just the balance of sweet and salty and spicy. It's so simple, yet so complex with flavors.
Starting to get hungry talking about this. So I want to know, what do your family and friends ask you to make the most?
Do my family and friends ask for me to make? Honestly, when I go to my family's house, they don't tell me to make anything particular. They just tell me to look in the fridge and make whatever. It's usually get rid of all this stuff in the fridge, Abby. And they always tell me how do you do this? How does it taste so good? There was just so many random things you put together. So it's again about, getting that foundation of knowing what pairs well together and then putting it into practice.
That's funny that you talk about that, because the worst dinners growing up were leftover meals, where I love my mom dearly, but sorry, Mom, I'm really, really sorry. But those nights where we just put them together, and we were poor, there were a lot of us, so I understand it. But it sounds like there's even hope for those meals.
Oh, yeah. And I use leftovers a lot on the yacht. I hate waste, first of all. Hate it. Sure. My mom is no waste. We were eating leftovers growing up too, and they were not my favorite days. But the way I use leftovers on the yacht is far different than how I ate them as a child. For example, I had a salsa that I made. It was a bean salsa for cocktail hour the night before, and it didn't all get eaten. So guess what I did? Put it into a breakfast burrito the next morning, and they had no idea that came from the salsa at cocktail hour. So yeah, repurposing the leftovers. So it's a little more interesting than, what you ate 12 hours ago.
So have you ever done one of your Facebook cooking classes with leftovers, but had just some ingredients that everybody should have that would kind of work with almost anything?
I have not, but that's a great idea.
I'm going to put in that request, and I promise I'm going to subscribe, but I'm going to put in that request because, as you're talking, I'm thinking there's probably some ingredients that could help most things taste pretty good as a leftover.
You're saying a stock your pantry, or make sure to have these few things on hand to make make leftovers amazing. Yeah, yes. I like that.
That's going to be my request.
Okay.
Can I put in a request?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's my request. That will save so many families. I was going to say across the U.S., but probably around the world, probably save whoever the chef is, mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever, all of the eye rolls for leftover nights. Can you imagine? Yes, we're having leftover nights, but surprise the family with really yummy tasting. Okay, I'll leave it at that. That's my request, Abby.
Yeah, I love that. And leftovers usually go well in a stir fry. I feel throw some soy sauce on there and some oyster sauce in it. You can get away with that with leftovers.
Oh, I can't wait. What has been the best part of this journey for you?
The best part of this journey is just being able to love what I do. I get to cook on a yacht in a galley that has this huge window that I can look out to the crystal clear ocean. And I'm cooking every single day and doing exactly what I love. I will never get tired of cooking. Never. And it's always something new. At a job where maybe you're working at a computer all day long and you're doing the same thing every single day. Every single day is different for me, and I get to be creative. And that's how I am. And I'm using my skills and my ability to cook and my ability to be creative, and I'm focusing it into something that I love.
As you were saying that, I was getting a picture of what that must be like. And it sounds beautiful, not just the view, certainly the view, but you're talking about to be engaged in something that you're passionate about every single day. It kind of sounds like a dream come true.
This is more than I could have hoped for. I saw a below deck of chefs working on a yacht. I'm like, well, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. I'd be on the boat, which I love boating, and thankfully I don't get seasick. And this opportunity presented itself out of the blue, and I'm like, why not? Why not take the risk? Why not try it out? And it's just been amazing. And I find that I rarely say no to opportunities. because they just open you up to so many more opportunities. It's like a tree. It just grows and grows and grows, and more opportunities lead to more networking, means to just new growth and opportunities.
I love that. And every single episode, there's a point where I want to hit rewind, because what my guest said is so important. And I love what you just said, that you rarely say no to opportunities because they tend to lead to other opportunities. And I love that you said it's like a tree. It just grows and grows and grows. And also your why not? Because if you say no to an opportunity, then that's the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask yourself, why not? Then you don't know where that's going to lead.
Yep.
Very cool. So I'm just so curious. As you were talking about this, in my mind, I'm thinking of that beautiful blue sky as you're sailing along. What about the days where it is not good weather? Have you ever had like scary, tumultuous days?
Yes, we have.
Tell me, how does that work when you're trying to cook? Or, I love a boat too. I love nature, but I don't know that I want to be on a boat when it's rocking and rolling. And so tell me about that.
Yeah. So we have days where we're underway. And what that means is that the boat is moving towards wherever the next destination is. And some of these crossings could be, 10 hours long. So there's usually a meal that is going to be in that 10 hours. And that's difficult, but I usually prep the day before and make it super easy on myself to just kind of plate it up or reheat it or whatever it might be. And a suggestion, if you are on a boat that has some rough seas, I'm always in no shoes, just barefoot, because my little toes like grip to the bottom, and that just helps you stay a little more stable. But we have not made any crossings where we knew the weather was going to be bad. But we have had a pretty crazy thunderstorm that came in through the Bahamas. And thankfully, we were in a marina, so we were on a dock. We weren't anchored, because that would have been kind of dangerous. We probably would have been having to go to a marina. But went to bed for the night, and I start feeling just the boat just swaying. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. And lightning out the window. It was, I remember waking up and just looking out the window and going, oh my gosh, I wonder what's happening out there. Just wind whipping. And the first mate and the captain woke up. It was like 3 a.m. and they were having to take in chairs and like take off cushions. And the next morning I woke up, there was a boat that got struck by lightning, which I saw outside my window.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Shocked their whole system. They couldn't even turn on the boat. They were like out of commission.
But they were okay?
They were okay. It was just the electrical system just got completely blown out because of this lightning. A little dinghy boat flipped. There was just trash everywhere at the marina. And it was totally out of the blue. I mean, it was a gorgeous day, and then it just completely turned. And then I couldn't get to the grocery store for 2 weeks because the island was completely flooded. And the funny thing is that the owner came in from the airport. He got a taxi ride from the airport, and it's about a 15-minute drive from the airport. And halfway through, the car stops and says, I can't go through this puddle. So they drop them off on the side of the road. And the owner flags down this bus, like a school bus. And they were like, what is going on? Because we see the school bus coming into the marina, and it's the owner and his buddy coming off the bus. And we're like, they did not just hire out a whole school bus to get down to the marina, because that's the only car that could get through the puddles.
I think that's pretty inventive. You do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You see the little doors open.
Yep, it was hilarious.
Flashing lights. That's awesome. What advice would you give to anyone considering what they want to be when they grow up, or I'm sick of what I'm doing, I want to make a change? What advice would you give to those people?
I say find people in the industry or whatever hobby that you're interested in. Find people that share in that passion, whether it's through a Facebook group or like a group you have locally, and just kind of ask them questions about it and start networking. Again, it's all about networking and just being able to share a passion with somebody else. It would feel so alone if I was the only one talking to myself about cooking. But I reach out to so many other people that share my passion, and we get to experience it together. I think just building relationships with people that share the same interests is so important, and it also motivates you to go out and actually do it.
That's a really good point. And you've actually created a community of people who do share a passion, even if it's just watching it or learning it. Maybe they're not going to ever be a chef on a boat, but you've really created a community. I think that is such good advice. We tend to take on the characteristics of the people that we spend time with. So why not seek out people who are doing what we want to do?
Yeah.
Man, that's really good advice. What are the challenges of living the way that you do?
The challenges would be just being away from friends and family. I am always with friends, and it's that community thing. I have friends over at least 2-3 times a week or meet up with them. So just making sure that you're keeping those connections even when you're out at sea for 2 months, like FaceTiming and texting. It's difficult, but I do enjoy the summers because I am cooking, but I make sure to keep connected with all those friendships.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's next for you?
What's next? Gosh, there's always something. Again, one thing leads to another thing. Next, hopefully, there's going to be a cookbook in the future.
Ooh.
And it will, show you ways that a recipe is just a guide and encourages little chefs to get creative.
I love that. Would you ever consider a cookbook for kids?
A lot of people ask me for that because Little Chef.
Well, I didn't think about that until you used that phrase. And I know that's not what you mean, but how cool would it be? How cool would that be?
I mean, I have the insight of teaching children. So yeah, it could work.
And, I'm thinking I could probably learn a lot from that little cookbook.
I was reading a kid's cookbook and I loved reading it because it was all pictures. It's like all the utensils were mapped out in picture form rather than 3 pages of just text. I'm like, I love that. So yeah.
Yeah. Let me know when you do that. There's my next request. Abby and the Galleys children's cookbook.
Yeah.
Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's a better cook? You or your mother?
Okay, so my mom, I used to hire her for catering events to be like my prep cook. And she is a go-getter. She's a get it done kind of girl. But my dad, on the other hand, is very detail oriented. So when my mom preps food and I tell her to cut carrots this size,
and
what
you're doing is the carrots like like a
half an inch by half an inch.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I call her the rustic cook because nothing comes out the same size, although it might taste great. Like she does have an ability to make food taste amazing. She read the Acid, Fat, Heat cookbook. I don't know if you've read it. It's amazing.
No.
Oh,
I've never even heard of it.
It talks about.
Remember who you're talking to, Abby.
I think you should read it because my mom's cooking abilities skyrocketed after
Really?
that. Oh, yeah.
What is it called again?
Acid, Fat, Heat, and Salt. I think I'm messing up the order of those 4 words, but you'll be able to find it if you Google it. But it talks about how important those 4 things are and ratios of them and what they bring to the table when you're preparing food. She got a great grasp of the concept there, and I really have noticed a difference with her food. I grew up with amazing food. I grew up with Italian family members, my Gigi, my Nana, my mother. She's just a rustic cook, but she does make things taste really great. And I will say that I got her ability to make things taste great from her. I luckily got my mom's ability to make things taste amazing and my dad's abilities to be super detailed with things, and I meshed them together. I'm not going to say who the better cook is. I can't.
Well, I have an idea. Here's my next idea for you. We'll have a cook-off. So for our listeners, I actually know Abby's mom. She happens to be my yoga instructor. She's amazing. We'll have a cook-off and I will be the judge.
Okay. Blind taste test, because once you see the rustic cuts, you'll know it's my mother.
Okay. True. I feel like I should have scheduled this interview on the yacht.
Yeah.
Here's my last request. Can we plan a part 2, but next time on the yacht live with me eating your food?
You want to be flown out
Talk to the owners.
All right, I will.
Abby, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And like I mentioned, I am going to put all of your handles in the show notes so people can find you, so people can subscribe to your Facebook or YouTube, wherever they can, wherever they want to, for your live cooking show, so we can all get better at this and make those leftovers taste better.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Christy.
It's my pleasure.